Good morning. As you guys can see, today I'm not here, but today we are going to continue working on the next lesson, which is graphing linear inequalities in two variables. So today we're going to be graphing linear inequalities, so it has a less than or a greater than, and it's going to be very similar to graphing lines. Now, let's go get started. If you guys see a symbol that's less than or greater than, but there's no equal sign underneath, the line in this case is going to be a dash line. So it's going to be dash. If it has an equal sign, so if you have less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, the line is going to be solid. So we're going to have a solid line. So if there's no equal sign, it's going to be dash, which indicates that the points are not part of the solutions. If he has an equal sign underneath, it's going to be a solid line. We also have two types of inequalities. We have less than and greater than. If the inequality, if you notice on this case, if it's greater than, so if it's greater than, we are going to be shading the top section. So we're going to be shading the top. So I'm just going to do several arrows. I'm going to make 3 arrows going up, and I'm going to be shading the top section. So I'm going to be shading, using my ID, I'm going to be shading the top section. So once I make my red arrows, and yes, everybody needs to make those red arrows, you need at least 2. Ideally, 3 or 4 will be best. Now, the way I remember, if it's greater than, this can be like a T, so I'm going to shade the top section. On the next one, if you notice, if it's less than, we are going to shade the low side, the less low side. So notice that's an L, less than, low side. If it's greater than, it will shade the top section. So in this case, we're going to be shading the low section. I'm going to make arrows going down to indicate that's the low section. Less than will be the low section. I'll make at least 3 arrows. And then I'm going to shade the low section. So I'm going to shade the whole section over here. That will indicate that all those points are solutions for the inequality. For the next one, if it says greater than, that means that's going to be the top section. So I'm going to make arrows going up, because we're going to shade the top section. So 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to shade that section over here, which is the greater than. I'm going to shade the entire section. That will indicate that all those points are solutions. Next problem. If it says less than or equal to, notice that the line is a solid line because of the equal sign. So if it's less than, it'll be the low side. I'm going to place arrows going down. And I'm going to shade that section. So 2 things that you need to keep in mind. The first, whether your line will be dash if there's no equal sign, or solid if there's an equal sign. And second, where you're going to shade the top side or the low side. So let's go through example number 1. Let's start on example number 1. On example number 1, we have 3 problems. Notice that they all have an inequality in between. So less than, greater than or equal to, or greater than. We're going to go through the same process as when we graphed equations before. First, I'm going to highlight my y-axis and my y-intercept, which is -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll be my first point. Next, I'm going to go ahead and grab my slope. This is a 2. I'm going to make it a fraction to be able to graph it. So it's positive. I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 1. So it'll be rise over 1. 1, 2, and to the right 1. 1, 2, to the right 1. 1, 2, to the right 1. Next, before I make the line, I need to decide if this is going to be a solid line or a dashed line. So if you notice, the inequality does not have an equal sign, so therefore it's going to be a dashed line. The line will be dashed. So I'm making a dashed line. Next, I need to decide if I'm going to shade the top section or the low section. So in this case, we have a less than, so it will be the low side. And I'm going to place several arrows. So I'm going to place an arrow on each of the points. I need at least to see 3 arrows, but it can give me more than 3. And I'm going to shade the low section. I'm going to shade the entire section will be shaded. And that's it. That's all we're doing today. Letter B. Let's go through the same process. First, highlight your y-intercept and your y-axis. That's where the first point will be located. So it'll be positive 3, 1, 2, 3. Next, my slope. It's a negative slope, so it'll be negative 1 over 2, so I'm going to go down and to the right. It's going to be falling, so fall 1 and over 2. Fall 1 and over 2. Let's do it once again. Fall 1 and over 2. And we can repeat it again. Fall 1 and over 2. It goes a little off the chart. Now from here, I need to decide if this is going to be a solid line or a dashed line. In this case, do we have an equal sign underneath? Yes. So we know that it's going to be a solid line. So those points that are on the line are also part of the solution. Next, I need to indicate whether I need to shade the top or the low side. This is greater than will be the top section. I need to shade the top. Place several arrows, and it doesn't matter the location of the arrows, but it does need to be going up, because this is greater than, shade the top. And then we're going to shade that section. All those points that I'm shading are part of the solution. Those points that are not shaded are not solutions. Only the points that are on the line, since it's solid, and that are shaded are part of the solutions. Letter C. If you notice, we do have the y-intercept, but there's no slope. But let's go and get started. Let's see the y-intercept, the y-axis. My first point will be a 2, 1, 2. Now my slope, there's no slope, so automatically the coefficient is 1 over 1. I'm going to go up 1 to the right 1. Up 1 to the right 1. Up 1 to the right 1. So remember, if there's no coefficient, automatically there's a 1. And to make it a fraction, we'll place it over 1. I need to think if this is going to be a solid line or a dashed line. Is there an equal sign underneath? No. So therefore, it's going to be a dashed line. The dashed line is to indicate that those points that are on the line are not part of the solutions. Only the ones that are shaded. So it's going to be a dashed line because there's no equal sign underneath. And it's greater than, so we're going to shade the top section. Shade the top, shade the top. I need to see at least 3 arrows. So I'm going to shade all the top section, the entire top section. And shaded, all those points that I'm shading are part of the solution. Go and try example number 2 by yourselves. A, B, and C. Go and pause it. Try examples A, B, and C by yourselves quietly. And then I'll work it out with you afterwards. Go and pause it. Great. On example number 2, we're going to go through the same process. First, highlight the y-axis, highlight the y-intercept. So my first point should be on the y at -2. That's my y-intercept. That's where the line crosses the y-axis. My slope is positive, so up 3 and to the right 4. From your first point, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, I need to decide before I make my line is if it's going to be a solid line or a dashed line. Let's see. There's an equal sign underneath, so that means that's going to be a solid line, correct? So this is going to be a solid line. Next, I need to decide if I'm going to shade the low side or the top side. Let's see, this is greater than, so it's going to be the top section. So I'm going to shade the top section. Letter B. First, we're going to highlight the y-axis, highlight the y-intercept, which is -1. Next, my slope is -2 over 1. So I'm going to go down 2 and over 1. Down 2 and over 1. I need to decide if it's going to be a solid line or a dashed line. There's an equal sign underneath, so therefore there's going to be a solid line. Next, I need to decide if I'm going to shade the low side or the top side. This is greater than, so it's going to be the, if it's greater, will be the top section. I'm going to shade the top section, the top section. Remember that I need to see at least 3 arrows. In red, of course. All of you guys should have your red pens. Letter C. First, I'm going to highlight the y-axis. I'm going to highlight the y-intercept, which is -1. My slope is positive, so I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 1, 2, 3. Remember, positive slope up and to the right. Next, I need to decide if it's going to be a dash or a solid line. Let's see, there's no equal sign underneath, so it's going to be a dashed line. Next, I need to decide if I'm going to shade the low side or the top side. This is less than, so if it's less than, it's going to be the low side. I'm going to shade the low section. Going down. It doesn't matter how many or where you place your arrows, but I do need to see at least 3 or more. And I'm going to shade the low side. So I'm going to shade the entire low side. This is what it should look. So if you got one incorrect, make sure to fix it, because before you get a stamp, they all should be correct. Example number 3. Of course, all of you guys remember that whenever it's y or x equal to a number, what type of line do we have? Do you guys remember if it's x or y? It's going to be a vertical or horizontal. VH, Vanessa Hudgens, Van Helsing, Van Halen, or Vicente Hernandez. So in this case, we have y and a 1. So it's going to be a horizontal line. On the y-axis, we're going to go over to the number 1, and we're going to place a horizontal line. The question is, am I going to make a dash or a solid line? There's an equal sign, so therefore it's going to be a solid line. So the line that we're going to draw, it has to be solid. I need to decide if I'm going to shade the low side or the top side. This is greater than, therefore it's going to be the top. Remember that I need to see at least 3 arrows. Next, x is greater than negative 2. X is going to be a vertical line. So you have to go to your x-axis, which is right here. You're going to go over to the negative 2. And I need to make a vertical line. Now, dash or solid? There's no equal sign, so automatically it should be a dashed line. Now the question is, am I going to shade the low side or the top side? It's greater than. Now some of you will say, no, there's no top or low side. But if you notice, it's all the numbers that are greater than, and it should tell you the arrow, we're shading the right-hand side. All the numbers that are greater than negative 2 are to the right, are bigger, are greater than negative 2. And we just shade last one on this page. Y is less than negative 1, so y will also be a horizontal line, but we're going to go over to the negative 1 on the y-axis. I need to decide solid or dash. In this case, there's no equal sign, so it'll be a dashed line. So it means that those points that are on the line are not part of the solutions. And it's less than, so am I going to shade the low or the top? It's going to be the low side. I'm going to shade the low section. 1, 2, 3. Now, let's continue to the back side. On the back side, we have two problems that we need to graph. But if you notice, they're now in slope-intercept form. So I need to be able to change it to slope-intercept form. Very quick process. It's a two-step process. First, draw the line. I'm going to move my x to the right. It's a positive. We can't say negative. So I have a negative 2y less than or equal to negative x, and that's a positive 4. Next, I need to leave the y by itself. So in order to be able to leave the y by itself, I need to divide by, not by 2, but by negative 2, because I want the negative to cancel as well. The 2's cancel, the negatives cancel. And what happens when I divide by a negative number? I need to flip the inequality. Negative divided by negative, so the double negative becomes a positive. Now, there's no coefficient here, so there's a 1. 1 divided by 2 will just be 1/2 x. Positive 4 divided by negative will be negative 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And from here, I can just graph it. Same process as before. Highlight the y-axis. Highlight the y-intercept. So that's negative 2. My slope is positive, so I'll go up 1 into the right 2. Let me repeat it once again. It's positive, so I'll go up 1 into the right 2. Up 1 into the right 2. I need to decide if it's going to be a solid or a dashed line. Let's say there's an equal sign, so automatically this will be a solid line. And I need to decide if it's going to be the low or the top. This is greater than, so it'll be the top section. I must shade all the points above the graph. And you can do 3 or more lines, but I do need to see those red arrows on each of the problems. And I must shade all those points are part of the solutions. Let's go to the last problem, example number 5. To be able to graph it, it's a very quick process. It's this two-step process to be able to solve it for y, to leave the y by itself. First, the 3x goes to the right. It's a positive, becomes a negative. So we have 4y is less than or equal to negative 3x minus 8. Next, I need to divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. The 4's cancel. Y, remember, we divide by 4, so I don't have a need to flip the inequality. Only when you divide by a negative number. In this case, we divide by 4. Negative 3x over 4. And that gives me minus 2. First, highlight the y-axis, highlight the y-intercept. That'll be -2. Next, my slope is negative, so I'll go down and to the right. Down 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's see, solid or dash, there's an equal sign, so be solid. And do I need to shade the low side or the top side? It's less than or equal, so therefore it's going to be the low side. So I'll place arrows going down. So now, this will conclude the lesson for today. Now, don't worry about the learning log. You can skip the learning log. But for now, you do need to work on your objective met. And make sure it's correct before you start on your homework. So you'll be stamped, but it must be fully correct. Go and work on your objective met, and I'll see you guys next time. Please behave and do your best.